comparing two people of different stackings, it really is like living in a whole other world. The Bhavachakra, those are called the six realms. And really, that is what the instincts are. And I mean, it's all life is suffering.
There's ways that hell hides from us.
Yeah.
And the stackings and instincts are it.
This is real. Like, it sounds like some bullshit, but it's it's fucking
Totally.
real.
The big hormone Enneagram.
Let me lay it on the line. I got a little freakiness inside. Let you know that the man has got to deal with it.
Hi, I'm John Lukovich, sexual self-pres 4 with 5 wing, 458 trifix.
Hi, I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual 9 with a 1, 974 trifix.
What up? It's Emeka. I'm an 8-wing-7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am a self-pres social 3, wing 4, with a 369 trifix. If you like our podcast, guys, make sure you go like and subscribe on the Apple Podcast app. And if you really like us, you should definitely leave us a review.
Nancy, what are we doing today?
I don't fucking know. Why are you asking me? I'm busy, bitch.
Nancy,
Because your voice is very necessary, apparently.
Apparently.
We have to give you
Apparently.
permission
Jesus
to
Christ.
speak.
welcome to Big Hormone Enneagram. It's your e-girls, and we are back with talking instinct shit. We're doing stackings today. We're doing self-pres social, maybe self-pres sexual, depending on how long this thing rambles. Buy my book. It is out on my website, johnlukovich.com, on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles. David Gray is coming out with a trifix guide that is really cool. That's very visual and impressionistic, where he gives like an archetypal texture and language through metaphor and sort of poetic evocation of each trifix combination. It's a very unique way to learn and engage with the Enneagram and engage with these types that's not like anything else out there. And is there anything else y'all want to plug before we get into it?
Also want to say John wrote a really good intro to that trifix booklet and praises me to the heavens. So it's beautiful that way.
I had to make sure that everybody understood what's going on. The energy is strong.
Highly.
Yeah. And also, we've been, I think a couple episodes ago, we talked about the Dark Arts Academy that we've got going on at Enneagrammer.com. You can, it's $19 a month. And every week we do an hour plus video delving into how we're typing a select celebrity. I think the last celebrity we did was Michael K. Williams. And I believe this week is Anna Wintour, who's a type 4. So every week we have a new celebrity, and just Joseph, David, and myself giving our insights and inappropriate, snarky comments about that person's type. And it's a lot of people learning from it. So if you're interested, Enneagrammer.com, $19 a month. And also, if you have read or are currently reading John's book, go to Amazon, leave a rating and or a review. It would be a tremendous help in getting the visibility that it deserves.
All right. So one of the things that we want to flesh out with this series on stacking is what do they feel like? Not just like the mechanics of it, but what do each of these stackings, what's their flavor and their significance? And self-pres social it's the most common instinctual stacking. And for that reason, it's kind of easy to look over or take for granted. Like whenever there's a disproportionately strong prevalence of a certain type or instinct, a lot of times it's just taken as normal or baseline. And so because of that, a lot of people don't see themselves initially as self-pres social, or have a hard time identifying its features because the other stackings contrast very strongly with self-pres social. And also, I think self-pres social, it's really easy to not appreciate. For the reasons that we're speaking or that I'm speaking about. It's like easy to not see, like I just see a lot of self-pres socials being like kind of not so.
I have to offer, like,
yeah,
I'm not unique, I'm not fun, I'm not pretty. energy. You know, the
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, like not appreciating it and appreciating its energy. And part of it is that it is the most grounded stacking there is. And so from that point of view, I think people can like not see some of the magic of it.
It's like you can see each stacking, like David's instincts cards and the connections he made with the Bhavachakra, how each stacking it's its own little world, and each world has a role to play. And I can imagine like self-press social being the foundation of anything. Like if you're starting an organization or anything you want to start, like you're gonna have to have ground roots, and you're gonna have to have some way to make that connected to other people.
Mhm.
So it like, I guess a way you could look at each of the stackings is that, as with all the instincts, is that you need all of them, and you can see that each stacking has something unique and important to bring to the whole. And the life cycle of everything has to have each of the stackings in that self-press social. It's kind of like the foundation of anything that you're doing.
Yeah, it differs from SPSX in that it's got so much more of a sustainability and kind of open air sunlight life force. It brings that to self-pres, whereas like SPSX with sexual, it has this kind of an aspect of it that is dangerous or dark or even hints at
Useless.
death or something like that.
It's
Yeah.
where things go to die.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And not get done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That became pretty obvious in our self-pres call, David. The differences
Yes.
between self-pres social and self-pres sexual. There was a lot more light in my descriptions of myself.
Yeah, it's like self-press social is like the sun on the earth versus what's in the roots under the earth with self-press sexual. But
Yeah.
I think Emeka, your point that all instincts kind of like have a role to play, or like each stacking has a role to
Mhm.
play,
Mhm.
is really good way to think about it all. Because people just get so much into like which one's better, which one's me, either these two
Mhm.
categories. And I mean that kind of gets into the Bhavachakra idea, and I don't know if that's like a way we can explore the stackings here is like David's model of the Bhavachakra. If that's something you want to do, David, or is that the
Sure.
direction to go?
Yeah. I mean, which aspect? Because there's kind of several different things that I use that symbol for. So was there somewhere you were going?
You could go into specifically on the Bhava Chakra what SPSO represents on the wheel, and SPSO and SPSX. And maybe you could tie into what role are those two worlds representing on the Bhava
hmm
Chakra wheel.
But I think also setting up like this, like I don't know if people listening would be as familiar with the Bhavachakra and how you're using it and all that kind of shit.
Right. So just briefly, I discovered probably about 10 years ago that I'll just say this as if it's a fact that the Bhava Chakra has the instinctual stackings in it. It's got Bhava Chakra is an ancient Buddhist symbol, 5,000 years old, said to have been designed by the Buddha himself, and it is said to contain essentially all of his teachings in the symbol. Every single thing is there in the symbol, and it's basically a round symbol. It's where we get like the Wheel of Fortune on the tarot card, and it's got multiple circles on it that each have sort of different things that they're depicting relative to the nature of human beings and the universe and cycles of life and so forth. At some point on the old Riso Hudson board, somebody posted something about the Hungry Ghost segment. Inside one of the wheels, inside one of the circles inside of the Bhava Chakra has 6 segments, and that's the part, of course, that I'm saying is associated with the 6 instinctual stackings. Somebody had posted something 10 years or so ago on the Riso Hudson board about the Hungry Ghost segment. And I looked that up. For some reason, I was drawn to it. And then I was thinking, that sounds like maybe it's SPSX or SXSP. And I didn't even know that there were going to be 6 of them. And then right when I saw that there were 6, I went, holy shit, this is going to be the stackings. And then I started looking at them, and I went, oh my God, there it is. They're all there. And it takes a while to build up the framework to explain it all, of why they match so well. But the confirmations of those matching the stackings has just continued to unfold, and probably will continue to do so. And it's interesting too, because the Bhavachakra, those are called the 6 realms. And really, that is what the instincts are and the stackings are. I mean, it's, comparing 2 people of different stackings, it really is like living in a whole other world. Go ahead.
Like a different species of human.
Mhm.
A different species in a different world.
Real quick, I think
Yeah.
with something to just mention about the Bhavachakra, like Google it or whatever, but it's a
Yeah.
symbol of like different rings. And
Yeah.
as David mentioned, there's an aspect of the one of the rings that has 6 divisions. But within that, the center are 3 animals that represent, they're called the 3 poisons: ignorance, attachment, and aversion. David's correlated these with the instincts, and we can either have it here or somewhere else. But and the symbol's being held by this, like, I think, is that Yama, the god of death?
Yes. Yes.
But it's like it's like a visual image, and it's looks kind of like what like kind of like a mandala or something, but just kind of give that picture. It's got different gods and goddesses and different things like that.
That's another important piece too, is the part at the very center, the axle, is there's a pig, a rooster, and a snake, which I realized represent the pig is self-pres, the snake is sexual, and the rooster is social. And as you look at those symbols and sort of look at symbolism and ideas and even phrases in our language, things like bring home the bacon, piggy bank, just things like that, or pecking order for rooster, for social, right? Just, it's already in our language. And so, and the other thing too about all of this that interesting is it, and it should be said that in the Buddhist text or whatever, it's not, there's nothing in there that mentions instincts, right? And so my claim here is somewhat heretical, possibly relative to Buddhism or something. But I'm saying that this text, so to speak, about the instincts is, I don't know if intentional is the word, but it's been hidden in there this whole time, kind of waiting to be discovered, and for these associations to be made. Because if you listen to standard, Buddhist, I don't know what you call it, scripture, doctrine, or whatever, it's not going to talk about these things associated with the instincts. I'm the one who's making those associations. But again, as you play the symbols forward, the instincts really pop up vividly, as do the stackings in the 6 segments. So back to the original question. So the self-pres social in the 6 realms is animals or beasts, and then self-pres sexual is hell, the hell realm. So you've got the animals, it's kind of like what John said earlier. You've got the animals on top of the land, and then you've got the hell realm, which is underneath the land.
So Bhavachakra right now, and just for the benefit of the people, Are you talking about the one kind of bottom right? Is that self-sexual, or are we talking bottom?
The very bottom one, straight in the middle, is
Okay.
self-pres sexual,
Gotcha.
and the animals one is also in that lower part.
It
It's
is.
usually on the right side, but I've seen some versions where it's on the left, and there is an importance to that, and that's a complicated topic. But oh, one thing I was going to say is, we're trying to stay on self-pres social, but one thing about the self-pres sexual is that it's the hell realm. And one thing that's kind of fascinating about it is ultimately the Buddha was saying that it's all hell. And I mean, it's all life on earth life is suffering, famous Buddhist saying. And so, like, even the realm of the gods is ultimately suffering, which is the one at the top center, which aligns with sexual social. And but one thing that's fascinating when you look at the many depictions of the Bhavachakra, and there's many hundreds of artists have depicted that same symbol, is that you see the SPSX, that bottom hell realm, expanding, like
Mhm.
it keeps getting bigger. And or there's some versions of it where there's 6 equal segments, but there's a lot of them where that hell realm is starting to crowd the 2 that are on either side
Yeah.
up into the higher up, kind of bringing them up into like above the center line, if there was an imaginary center line. And so that's kind of symbolically, in my opinion, that's intuitively symbolically correct, that hell keeps expanding, and it represents that kind of fecundity of that kind of teeming decay and death, that kind of microbial uh uh yeah, stuff that's going on underground, that's
Use
kind of
more big
feeding.
words, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real
So
quick, David.
yeah.
I think that piece about suffering, and this is like a map of suffering, like a map of different hells. Even though like there is a hell realm, like these names are like the realm of the hungry ghosts, the realm of the animals, the realm of hell, realm of humans, realm of gods, and realm of demigods. And with the instincts correlated with the poisons, which are the cornerstones of our ignorance and keeping us trapped in samsara, the
Mhm.
intuitive, it's like that's what the instincts are. Like our identification with the instincts is what keeps us suffering, what keeps
Yep.
us trapped in illusion, attachment, all this kind of stuff like this. And so David's intuitive insight is dead fucking on, and that these realms, even though like the realm of the gods is self-pres social, or excuse me, social self-pres, right?
The gods is sexual social,
Sexual,
actually, and
okay.
it's the
Demigods.
demigods that's social self-pres.
All these things like imagistically and in our own awareness and ego, these all seem like things that like aren't the realm of suffering, or are, there's like, I'm not saying
Mhm.
it right, but there's ways that hell hides from us.
Yeah.
And the stackings and instincts are it. And so like the hungry ghosts or the self-pres sexuals, there is some sense that this is hell.
Mhm.
And those
Right.
people of those types kind of do relate to the world as if we're in some realms hell in an explicit way. But whereas other stackings might not, they might see the world as more of a playground or more of a something, or like there's a statement on what the world is or should be, and
Yes.
even that statement
Mm.
is hell, and that's what David's bringing out in the Bhavachakra blast.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
sure where
that's
to go. Go in.
well. I'll say this. When I think I saw David's website ages ago, maybe like probably like 8 something plus years ago, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I think a lot of people listening to this
Yeah, it
are
doesn't
gonna
make
be
any
like,
sense.
what the fuck is this? But for me, my approach to the Enneagram, as a lot of you have heard, is for me, if I can use it, like a concept doesn't mean anything to me if I cannot apply it in some kind of external way. So I learn by using and doing things. And for me, I was like, okay, stackings are a concept that seems legit. I can kind of see that in people, but it hasn't really clicked as a living, breathing thing. And David's got these instinct cards where he had visual impressions of each of these worlds. And part of me was like, that's really cool, and I can kind of get it, but can I catch this in the act in people? Is there a way that this is happening? If it's real, if SPSO is a real thing, how do we capture it? And so a lot of you who are in the group are aware of the fact that we use something called the collage exercise. And the way that came about is it came out of this idea that David is talking about, in that we actually discovered that when someone puts together a collage, that even when you do anything, like your moment to moment existence is through the lens of your instinctual stacking. So the very act of putting together a collage, the way that you do it is through the lens of your instincts, or through the lens of your stacking. And that stacking has a certain energy style that doesn't deviate regardless of who's doing it.
And it's because when you're making a collage, you are making your realm.
Yes, yes. So, just
yeah.
watching this happen, the first time I saw somebody make a collage and I showed it to David and he was able to pick out what stacking it was, I was like, what the fuck? Like, is this actually happening? Like, so, fast forward a year and hundreds of collages, like, wow, people are actually making collages that fit into 6 distinct styles. So these 6 distinct realms are a real thing. Like, the instincts are a real thing. You have a instinctual dominant instinct, and you have a blind spot, and that confines you to a certain way of looking at the world, which means that when you make a collage, it ends up looking like a bunch of other people who have the same instinct stacking as you. And some people still don't think that this is real, but it's like, if you see people making collages and that same style keeps showing up, it's like, whoa, what is going on here? So this is real. Like, it sounds like some bullshit, but it's it's fucking
Totally.
real.
Well,
And like John's approaches, I've tried to try to like make connections between the approaches that John talks about and what we've been seeing with the collage exercise, because it's like trying to describe these qualities of energy. It's the same, like, people are imposing these certain qualities of energy in everything they do. So that's just, the collage exercise is just one example of the way our instincts show up.
yeah, the collages are like the aesthetic of the approaches. And
Yes.
I wonder from that point of view if there's a way to work on the blind spot from the point of view of like shifting or orienting to different Bhavachakra realms, or like
Yeah.
worlds
Yeah.
or something, like,
Sure.
because I would imagine integrating the blind spot feels like the end of your world. Even if your world is hell, it's like that's what you know.
Right.
And so I don't know. I wonder if there's something of the realms like having a movement, because I mean, seeing as there's 6 points, it would seem like maybe you could map it onto the hexad of the Enneagram and using the triangle as the shock points or something.
Yes. So first of all, you just said something that relates to this whole other thing that's a discovery of mine, which is that actually you can put the 3 instincts on the triangle and you can put the 6 stackings on the hexad, and there's a rightful place. And
Oh yeah.
and you've even alluded to it,
Right.
John, in one of our last couple of calls, where you said something about self-pres last being 7-ish. Well, the stacking that goes on top of type 7 is social sexual. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff like that, and it's actually pretty amazing what comes to life with that schema, because one thing that ends up happening with it also is it starts to give another structural angle to the 9 types. For example, the one that goes on the stacking that goes on top of type 1 is social self-pres. And you can think of social, high order from the sky, and then self-pres, there's a wall in between that high, noble, dignified upper stuff, and a wall there between it and sexual, right? So social, self-pres, sexual, you see what I'm saying? So there's like type 1 has a wall, is trying to do a wall against the chaos of sexual. And you see what I'm saying? So there's like this kind of structural thing going on there. And like with the sexual self-pres correlates to 4, and like sexual, it's like self-penetrating. It's like I'm continually penetrating into myself, and in a way that builds a wall that stops me from being able to enter the social space. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell them
Anyway.
about the one that correlates to SPSO and SPSX and how, to describe self-pres, I guess.
Okay, we're going way out there in my theoretical world. Okay, so SPSO actually correlates to type 8, and it's fairly simple. One way to, and this is a fascinating way that it correlates to the Bhavachakra, because and that whole cross communication between all of these things that I put together gets kind of wild. But self-pres social in the Bhavachakra is animals or beasts. And you can see how type 8, if there's a type in the Enneagram that's the most sort of comfortable with their instinctual animal self, it's type 8. So boom, there it is. And so here's the other piece too, is SPSO and type 8 is type 8 you can conceptualize as a wall around a social group, right? A self-pres wall around a social group. And
I
so,
wouldn't know
and
anything
it,
about that.
right, exactly.
No,
Yeah,
not
ding,
you.
ding,
Amica
ding,
is our
ding.
living wall.
Exactly. Yeah, and that is exactly the social role that even social last 8s do, right?
Mhm.
And so it's also another way to think of it too is here's a completely different iteration of SPSO and 8 is if self-pres is, let's say, me, like me in my world, and it's self-pres, and then inside that is expansive social energy, right? So social is expanding air, sunlight, and so forth. So it's me expanding. So anyway, what was the other one you asked about?
Self-pres sexual.
Self-pres sexual correlates to type 5. And so bringing in, again, the Bhavachakra with that, one of the aspects of that hell realm is that it's got multiple hells, and they keep subdividing and subdividing and subdividing into micro. It keeps turning into this kind of like teeming, festering, and it kind of micro somethings, right? And like there's, I don't know, there's something like 18 hot hells and 18 cold hells, and then each of those hells, each one of them has hells within it. And so it's got that quality that's really similar to type 5, where it's it's that
Granular
Hyper
fractal
specific.
quality.
granular fractal things, worlds within worlds within worlds kind of thing, where you just keep going deeper and deeper and just like further away from reality in your conceptual space. So that's SPSX. And one way to say it too is in like what I did with type 1 and social self-pres is self-pres is a wall, type 5 is a wall, right? Just kind of similarly to 8, but 5's got like a chaos inside. That is the problem with them reaching the social world.
Yeah.
Right. So there's like a chaos, a festering chaos that has them incapacitated relative to the social realm.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting that SPSO is correlating with 8, because SPSO is the world where you find business, and usually business starts off with a product or service, which is a little thing, and then you have to expand that product or service into the community or into the world in some kind of way, and those things become huge companies, so they just end up growing, like it's expensive. So business is trying to, capitalism and all that stuff is just trying to grow and become as big as possible. So you got like Amazon, that's SPSO as fuck.
Right. And it's interesting too, because business is so 8ish in the sense of survival of the fittest.
Yes. And also, all the worlds of athletics and extreme sports and that's just hardcore. It can be really hardcore physical survivalist type shit.
Yep.
One of the things too about both 8 and that stacking, and this is not for everybody, but there is a kind of no space for the mystical or irrational, like
Yeah.
Mm,
like
true.
8 can be very I mean, even Emeka, the way you were talking about, like, can I use it? Can I do, like,
Yep.
Right.
can I
right.
get my hands on it? Can I mold it? It's like a very practical, even practical towards the spiritual. And so,
Yep.
and the thing about especially 8s with less sexual in their stacking, but is like they can be so no nonsense to the point where they actually delete a lot of stuff that's really important and vibrant and meaningful. It's like
Mhm.
part of the rejection type shutting down their own heart is like narrowing in on what is just usable and functional. And so it's sort of like you get the problem of like farmers that over farm the land or whatever. It's like
Mhm.
using and molding and pushing the earth and stuff like this, but sometimes and the very thing that should be fecund and yielding a harvest can actually be practical to the point of being dry.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yep.
Nancy, what do you think?
I think SPSO is really good at keeping shit dry.
Is it like I guess work over everything, like practical over everything, which
Well, because everything comes after practical, because you can't have anything else unless you have practice first.
Right.
Yeah, like social self-pres still has social idealism.
Yep.
Ugh.
I want to highlight what you just said, because that could be said to be the religion of SPSO, in that you can't
Mhm.
have anything else unless you first handle the practical. And it's interesting how you flip over to another realm like social self-pres, and there are a lot of people who would flip that the other way and say you can't have anything unless you have a place or status within a community. Like I look at
Mhm.
examples of in different cultures where just having a position of notoriety, like a chief in a village or whatever, means you don't work. Like people bring you stuff. Like, for example,
Mm.
I grew up in Nigeria, and still to this day, they still have chiefs in these different towns, and they still respect those things. So if you are born into it or you attain that position, or even like a president, or a president doesn't have to make money. Like he just has to be in that position, and everyone, you gain a lot of benefits from having that social position. Whereas subpress social is like this Amazon guy or whatever the fuck his name is.
Jeff
It's
Bezos.
like, yeah, he has amassed his wealth by just being the most ruthless practical motherfucker on planet, just eating up everything.
Mhm.
And so it's not about his social status. It's like he has been the greediest fucker on planet Earth, and that's how he has the ability to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, and it really does feel like a basic truth to me.
Right.
It's like, well, duh. Like,
Yeah.
this is a fact, and it's not actually a fact. It's just your fucking instinct, which is mind blowing.
Right.
Like in contrast to sexual self-pres, I just hearing what would be my one line religion, it'd be like if you have or create a compelling or um attractive enough hook that all of the things can come from that, like either money
Mhm.
or notoriety. Like if people can't look away or people can't resist the thing that you're doing, then anything can happen from there.
Well, like, I mean, my temple is my lover's body, and it's like I really do feel like I'm having like a very spiritual experience when I'm like with a lover. That there's like, I mean, Alexander and I's thing is just like, it's very spiritual. It's
Yeah.
it's like that's my religion.
hmm Or like that could be the foundation. I mean, I've talked about how getting with Beth has seemingly opened up so many doors for me, and it's like I can look at chapters of my life based on like who I was hooked into, and the finding the right love can be like the pinnacle of
Mhm.
existence.
Mhm.
Which
Yeah.
it's embarrassing to say that, because it's like it does not fit anything that is seems like practical in an adult kind of way. Like what? But
That's your
that's
8 super ego.
yes.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
was
yes,
gonna
Emeka,
say.
yes, yes, fly.
Yeah, it's
Like
interesting how like that SX comes in and just like changes the 8 to this soupy little love puddle.
I am ashamed.
Wall has melted.
Yeah.
Cute.
That's really cool to look at each stacking as a one-line religion of this is what reality is, and this is how I get the things that I need, and they're all lies, and they're all super imbalanced. And like what I said earlier, that we can work on accessing different qualities of each of these worlds, and maybe like a complete whole thing has all of these realms working in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's great. A moving between realms. Because yeah, like I mean, when I think of like this is weird, and I don't know there's a lot of my type stuff, I guess, but there's this thing of like invasion and contamination, like almost like on a both like a spiritual poison, but as well as like a molecular, biological, bacterial poison of like opening up to my social instinct. Like
Mm.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's a degrading energy.
Yeah.
And it really does feel like the like precious core intrinsic thing that as a 4 I'm always trying to keep away from everything else is going to be just like a tentacle of shit is going to go down my throat and like penetrate like the one little piece of light I can keep burning in the world,
Oh
like
my.
I'm not saying it's just
Oh
it's,
my.
That's not bleak enough, man.
Yeah.
that's like a
Intense.
lifelong thing. That's a lifelong experience, and like I haven't always had the language or images for it, but that's this contamination thing feels like if I go outside of my, I mean that's like I'm this hungry ghost realm starving for something, but then it's like maybe like letting too much into that hungry ghost little narrow channel. Like I mean, as a sexual self pres, I feel that the little channel where I can feel like what I want to feel and experience what I want to experience is like super fucking narrow
Mhm.
and never satisfied in that real way, like the hungry ghost way. So like hungry ghost for people listening is a mythological figure of like a spirit or a demon or something, but with like like really ravenously hungry belly, but like really tiny necks, long tiny
Yeah.
necks that can hardly find nourishment.
Right. And that's one of the realms. And yeah, and it really
Oh,
fits
is
that
that
whole.
what those are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Hungry Ghost is one of the ones in the lower
Yep.
part of the symbol. One of the other things too that's interesting in the Bhavachakra, relating it to the instincts, is that the realm for SPSO is animals, and animals have, this is symbolic, 4 feet on the ground. So it's the most grounded stacking. So there's
Mhm.
another one. And then and then looking at the animals in the axle, the pig, the snake, and the rooster, self-pres is the
Mhm.
pig. It's the one that's got 4 feet. It's the
Mm.
most grounded. The rooster, 2 feet, 2 wings. The snake, no limbs. So
Mm.
that represents that kind of
Zero
that
grounding.
that represents that kind of morphing quality and that ever-changing quality of sexual.
And it can be in a tree, in the water, in the ground. Like, yeah, it's got like no definite location in a certain way.
That's
Yeah.
right. Right.
So let's give some people some anecdotes of SPSO and SPSX. Like all of us have had some experience with people of that type, or typing them, or Nancy is that type, or SPSO, and David's SPSX. What are some ways that we've noticed that this shows up in real people that we've noticed? I'll go first. I think the collage exercise was educational, because on an abstract level, you could see what people were doing aesthetically, qualities of energy that were being emphasized. And so, for example, anytime you see a self-pres collage, it's very texture based. And maybe this is subtle for a lot of people, but to look at the shifts between aesthetics between self-press collage or social collage. One is just the vantage point. Like social collages are somehow up in the sky. Like there's a lot of air. Even if you have a collage that has images of a city, somehow the self-press social collage is on the ground. It's looking from the ground up. And I'm like, that's really interesting that people are just picking collage, images that appeal to them. And somehow self-pres is like in the body. Even if people are like trying to make sexy collages, if it's self-pres social, it's really in the fucking meat of the fucking,
Yeah.
body parts. Like you're really putting your face in that ass and just like all that shit is just self-press social. So that is one thing that I think you can notice with people that are either self-pres is like there's a real focus on the body. There's a real focus on sensuality and texture of things like me and objects and their relationship to the environment and like atmosphere is a real important thing.
So this might be too personal question, Nancy, but like
Never.
in terms of like sexuality and like sexual desire, like are you like are you like a body grabby, you know what I mean? Like you like the part of sex? Is that like a big appeal of it? Or you know what I mean? Like I like to, I'm very in the body about it. And so I'm wondering, as a sexual blind, but a sexual person who's self-press social, like what's a sexual manifestation of self-press social?
Hmm. That's interesting. So a lot of it for me is in my head. I I was recently talking to David about this because we have a lot of talks about this. Like I don't really watch porn. I watch like little snippets of like gifs or pictures of people's bodies, that kind of stuff, and then I kind of imagine a scenario with that. So like in actual, but like I don't know if that's more being female or not.
Oh, that's
Um
something. I think there's something there. 'Cause
yeah.
I'll tell you this much: like self-pressed blinds can be really horrified by the thought that they have a body and people are really fixated on the bodies sexually. That's a weird thing to me. But
Mm.
Well,
yeah,
it doesn't even really compute. I mean, I get what you're saying, but it doesn't I don't really get it. I hear what you're saying, but I don't get it. The words make sense, but I don't get it. Um, yeah, I'm more of like, I don't know. I don't really know.
I get like so I'll say for myself, I get very like into the body. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
very
okay.
grabby,
Yeah.
touchy, like and really into the parts. And but it's like the whole, is like not just as a parts thing, but like I like to sip all the fruits of the tree. Uh and but it's like very, and so I'm wondering if it's like more so like that for somebody who's self-pres dominant, or I guess it's hard to compare, but
Yeah.
like
I mean, I like when people are like that to me.
mhm.
But I'm more of like aesthetically, how is everything all together? Like, I don't know.
Like if your
It's
lover's like like almost like if they're a statue ideal, like I don't mean statue as an object, but just like a idealized thing or something.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, like you're not, I don't want to say you're not a real person.
Hmm.
Like it turns into like yeah, a little bit of an ideal.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. An
It's an
aesthetic
aesthetic,
ideal.
yeah, an aesthetic ideal. Yeah.
Mm,
And like
interesting.
anyone can be that. It's like I don't really have a specific body type or anything like that, unless well, with women I kind of do, but with
When
men I don't really.
Because like one time, I don't know if this will be a bad thing to mention on the pod, but one time Alexandra was like feeling jealous and mad, and so she like went through people I follow on Instagram, and like it was funny because like I'm always like, your body type is the most attractive body type for me, and she went and found out, she found out that basically all the women that I followed like since like long before we were together or anything had her body type exactly. So instead of being mad, she was like, "Oh, I believe you now."
This is validating.
That's good.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
You know-
not specific in that way.
I'm really specific.
One way to address this, and this is a discovery I just made over the last year or two is I realized, and yeah, I'm a little slow, but I've noticed that with women that are at least bisexual, if not mostly heterosexual, that um, getting to that kind of objectification thing is actually, you'll have a better sense, like with Nancy, if we asked her about how she is with women. I mean, and you said it there for a second there,
Mhm.
Nancy, that
Yeah.
that's because part of what that is, I mean, accuse me of being a sexist, misogynist pig or whatever, but I mean, it's it's the male, it's the masculine part of you. It's masculine
It's the male
energy that
gaze.
really does. It's the male gaze.
Yeah.
And so, and you're doing it with women. So that
Mm.
would almost be the way to ask John's original question, is in the context of women, how are you, in all of that sense of body parts and all that shit.
Mm.
That's
Yeah, no,
interesting.
I think I'd be actually a lot more similar to what John was saying with women, like into the body.
Yeah, how could you not? You know what I mean?
I
Like,
well, I know. I mean,
Yeah.
really,
like with
it's
men's
fucking
bodies are
women.
disgusting.
So true. It's so true. No, I will be on TikTok and I like I get a lot of women thirst traps on my For You page. And like I'll be like, oh, those hip dips.
Mm.
Just
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like a guy, is my point.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm just like, ooh, look at her soft arms. Just
Yeah. The meat. Give me the
some
meat.
weird shit like that. Yeah, so I do get a lot more into the body with women.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point, David.
I've noticed that it's not that at not social blind, but self-pres blinds, that they're not aware of people's bodies. They are aware, but it's almost like they delete that from the equation of the
Mhm.
sort of mating, like getting like the fucking body part is like, oh, we'll just get to that later. Like it's the interaction. They get high off of the sparks,
Mhm.
social, sexual, and sexual, social, and I've noticed that when confronted with just the physical reality of just the meat flesh of the body, there's this there can often be a recoil, like, oh, like I didn't, being reminded that you have a body that's a sexual
Mm.
organ,
Mhm.
is kind of like that thing where you see in self-pressed blind collages where they're just off the ground, they're just completely ungrounded. You forget that there's any connection to roots of any kind, and it can really be real light in texture, and that's kind of happening. That realm is playing itself out in their psyche, where they're really pushing away from the reality of the sensual reality of, and the mess, because like sex is messy and there's all these
Mhm.
fluids and heat, and like that can be like ugh to self-pressed blind. I don't want to see that. I don't want to be aware of
Mhm.
that.
Damn, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, me sexual self-pres with a social self-pres, it's like the body zone is like zone. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is the zone.
it's the zone. Hope I didn't get in trouble for being too personal
No,
to my
no.
dignified social baby.
I I think she's gonna have to get used to it, honestly.
Yeah, you have to defile her on a weekly, monthly basis.
Yeah. Remind her who she's with.
I've just got to protect my baby from dying on a weekly basis.
Just not that. Oh God, not that.
I would love the two of you to be on a call to just talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
social or self-pres blindness, and because I mean none of us are self-pres blind, so we haven't really.
It's a whole thing. Like every she comes home with a new mark on her body. I'm like, what happened? What happened now? And she's like, oh, I was
Had
trying to
really no
hide
idea.
that from you. And like, there's a new story of some shit that went down. And I'm just like, man, you are not paying attention at all.
So
It's
funny.
really funny.
Yeah. Anything else on self-press social, self-press
Well,
section?
So on Enneagrammer.com, I think these are David's words or maybe the three of y'all's words. But
Joseph, I believe.
oh,
wrote
Joseph,
Probably
nice.
Joseph. Yeah.
Nice. Because I like these words. Like he has for self-press social, the craftsman, the
Mhm.
innovator, the
Mm.
curator, the startup, the futurist, the heritage, the interior decorator, the technology, the preserver, the adventurer, the land explorer, the traveler, the lifestyle, and the season. I think those are great.
Ooh,
Mm.
yeah.
Mhm.
It started out not great, but it got better.
I think craftsman and inventor and those things are pretty great too. Just at least for me, because like in terms of like art and creativity, like my experience of self-pres socials is that they have a crafty orientation to their art and creativity.
Mhm.
And like we said earlier, that there is a way that sometimes the less practical side of self-pres social, which is definitely there, can go unacknowledged. And so like a lot of self-pres socials will not see themselves as that initially, because they might experience themselves as creative or sexy or something like this that the descriptions don't always hit on. And they can be hot as fuck and creative as fuck. But I think there is a craft quality to their art and artistic expression, things like that.
Yeah, I would agree.
That guy that you mentioned who started the Instagram with those pine cones,
Oh yeah,
that's self-pres social.
yeah, that shit's great.
Wait,
You know?
what?
Yeah, so he's a friend of mine. He's working on his blind spot. He's a self-pres social 9, and he's got these. We're doing doing these sessions together, and he was saying that I was like, "What is something that you just like love, or something that's kind of weird or impractical,
Oh
basically?"
yeah.
And he like loves collecting pine cones, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird and interesting." And so I encouraged him to make a Instagram. It's called Sprouting Woods, I believe. Let me double check that. But Sprouting Woods on Instagram, and it's his like kind of poetry about these pine cones, and it's pretty fucking cool. Like you wouldn't expect something like that to be cool, but he has these kind of poetic things that he sees. He calls them wooden flowers.
Yeah, he's really accessing that blind spot, sprouting woods.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying his name because I don't know if he wants it private or not. But anyway, yeah, it's cool.
But like think about how much people worship people like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, even though they're horrible people. Like Joseph mentioned on the website, the startup, like that whole world is SPSO, just products, and then we're gonna build the biggest company in the world. I mean, of course, you've got like assholes like Zuckerberg, who is social self-pres, who created Facebook, which is a social network. But the business thing, the business I'm going to do a startup, and it's going to be this big thing. That's all SPSO.
Very cool.
And also like so many like I mean trad cottage core aesthetic or whatever, like
Oh yeah, that's
like-
big SPSO energy.
yeah,
Hardcore.
like your shack that you hunt, and you hang up the pelts of the animals that you have hunted in the in the morn.
Yeah.
And you go out to the lake, and you take freezing cold water, and you bathe yourself out of a nice bucket that is like wooden and handmade or whatever, and
God,
like
Put that in a
this
drug and inject me with it.
sunlight glistening as it rises over the mountain peak, and all that kind of shit. With your trusty weapon, your gun that is like rusting, but it's like or whatever that you
Yeah.
pick apart and clean, all that kind of shit.
Dogs.
You guys got to stop. I disapprove of how how much in my dreamland you are right now.
I think dogs are SPSO also.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
big SPSO.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
And don't ever say that a cat is SPSO, or I'm going to get
Mm-mm.
very angry.
Well, they just aren't. Is the fact of it. I mean, they just aren't.
Oh, that's a good contrast. Cats versus dogs for
Mhm.
SPSO versus
That's it.
SPSX.
That's it right there. That's the whole fucking thing. You can just stop right there. SPSO dogs, SPSX cats. It's
Yeah.
done.
I was talking to Beth about she likes dogs, and I was like, I kind of like, cats are kind of cool, and she's like, well, cats are so destructive. They just kill for no reason.
Hell yeah.
They just go around and just bring home a rabbit and this and that, and like that's some self-pres sexual shit right there.
Yeah.
It's
Useless.
self-indulgent, like
Totally.
like death machine that doesn't give a fuck.
Prissy and
Salt.
snotty and
Yeah,
like sleeping all the
particular.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, self-indulgent. It's sensually self-indulgent.
Yeah. One of the things
Yeah.
too that's funny about cats is like growing up like in my family of 6, the cat liked only my mom and hated everybody else.
There you go.
And Alexandra has 2 cats, and one is like clearly a 9, one's like clearly a 7, and like clearly it's ridiculous.
It's
But-
accurate.
But yeah, we stayed with Nancy, and like the cats were going crazy. But this little punk, the 7, we call him T'Challa because he's like totally black, like the Black Panther, and he fucking loves me. And it's funny because like he hardly interacts with Alexandra, even though it's her cat, but he just like
Yep.
nope. And then whereas Tycho the 9 like basically ignores me and is just a big mom's boy. But it's this funny thing of just like no sense of obligation, no sense of like
Yep.
other people. It's just what I like. Whereas a
Yeah.
dog will like acknowledge everybody, like a dog will like make the rounds even
We're
if they
all
have their
here.
preferences. Right. It's just
Yeah.
excited by a new person and stuff.
And dogs are so much wanting to like do some work for the family.
Yeah.
Like
Ah.
the
Yeah.
dog coming back from, when a dog is at the end of a walk, they pick up a stick, right? And it's like they're trotting back to the house with the stick in their mouth, and it's like, yeah, I did some fucking work for you people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's a
Yeah.
great point. Because like cats, it's like completely like we're just like,
Total opposite.
totally serving them.
Yeah.
And they do nothing of value for us. And
Nothing.
there's a meme that Alexander I think is pretty funny where it's like that those meme of like boys when they time travel, girls when they time travel.
Oh yeah.
So it's like it's like cats when they time travel, and it's got a cat talking to an Egyptian cat, and it says, "Yeah, the humans are still working for us." And then
Perfect.
and then it's got a dog when
Wolf.
when they time travel, and it's got like this like one of those like little tiny yippy whatever like Chihuahua type of house dogs talking to a wolf, and the wolf just goes, "What the fuck is that?" The little dog's like, "I can't get off the couch," or what,
Yeah. That's
And-
pretty
and-
accurate.
The thing about SPSX is that's hard for people to wrap their heads around. There's just not a lot of examples, either just celebrities or even just people around that you're going to see like, oh, that's SPSX. Most people, and even people who are SPSX, because it is about self-pres and everybody's got to survive. You might work with one and they're just doing a self-pres thing, and you might,
Mhm.
unless you really get to know them, you might not be able to see the self-pres sexual thing going on. So
like Alex Giroux that we've had on as a self-pres sexual 2, and like doesn't present like a typical 2, and so like you can easily the self-pres sexual, especially I think of all the stackings in regards to some types, like seems to work against the energy, and so you have to like expand what like 2 means and expand like how those will influence each other, and they challenge your understanding of what are usually like, oh, 2 is like helpful and loving, but it's like in a self-pres sexual, what does 2 mean?
yeah, and also energetically, self-pres sexual is the most energetically self-contained. Like that feeling of somebody. I mean, I think this can be said of both the social blinds. Like there's some kind of cave dweller quality that you're gonna feel from them, but more so with self-pres sexual, it's like this very closed off, that sort of pseudo 5-ish quality you're gonna feel. I remember the first time I met David and some other self-pres sexual at IEA, and back then I hadn't really landed on my stacking yet, and it was immediate, like, yo, this is completely not at all like sexual self-pres. It's like completely contained.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, it's a wall because it's self-pres, and then it's because there's sexual inside. It's almost like you're your own entertainment factory. You know what I mean? It's like you've got everything already there. So it's got a certain, that makes it more contained in a certain way.
And I would say self-pres social is the archetype of the sexy person, because it's like these are the people that are going to take care of their bodies the most, and so they're going to be the fittest, and that sense of I'm going to craft my body and how I look. I think a lot of self-pres social self-pres social types just naturally just have that natural sexy fit look.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting to really go into how each stacking like tries to be hot.
That's a good one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be interesting.
Especially on big hormone Enneagram.
Yeah.
We should do that in the future.
Mhm.
And I definitely want you and Beth, Emeka, to talk about self-pres blindness.
Cool.
Yeah. I want to bring her on for that one. That's because it's just hilarious. It's just like an ongoing joke because I'm just like, what now? Like every single, my week was chaotic because of just chaos. The self-pres blind chaos. Just like, all right, I got to deal with this today. Okay, all right, cool.
Got it. Unfortunate.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think we got enough.
It's good.
Cool.
I like how we're like, I don't know what to do, and then we just kind of like go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's
good.
kind of funny.
All right.
Alrighty.
I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, bye.
All right.
Later.
Okay.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.